Hi, I'm Angela Nicholson, and in this tutorial I'm going to show you how to make non-destructive adjustments of your image using adjustment layers. There are two ways to create an adjustment layer. The first is to go up to Layer and scroll down to a new adjustment layer and then select the one you want. Or alternatively, on the Layers palette, just go down to this icon, click on it, and then select the adjustment layer that you want to make. So in this case I'm going to create a Levels adjustment layer. And you'll see straight away that you get the same panel that you normally see when you make a levels adjustment. So now I'm going to adjust the levels. I'm just going to drag the bright point in to brighten up the image, and I'm going to drag the black point in, and that's just giving it a bit more contrast. Now I'm going to look at creating a curves adjustment layer in addition. And I'm going to boost the contrast even more by dragging the highlights up and the shadows down. And now I'm going to see how it looks with a black and white adjustment layer applied. So if I go back to the icon and just choose black and white, and then I can just play around with these sliders until I get the effect I want. There, that'll do for now. Now you notice on the right hand side here I've got the layers panel, and it's showing all the adjustment layers I've got, and I can turn them on and off if I want. So if I just click on this eye icon, that turns off the black and white layer, so I can see that or not. The curves layer, but it's still showing, even though I've turned off the curves layer, it's still showing the black and white effect because that's above the curves and it's still switched on. And the same with the levels. If I wanted, I could make this layer slightly less opaque. Just reduce its opacity. And that's letting some of the colour from beneath show through. If I put it right to 100% again, it goes to black and white. If I turn it to 0, none of the adjustment is being applied, so you just see the impact of the adjustment layers beneath on the background layer. So I quite like it just there. So we've got a bit of colour, but it's quite muted. Another thing you can do with adjustment layers, just like normal layers, is change the blend mode. Now at the moment this one's set to normal, but if I set it to luminosity, it just makes a very slight adjustment, and that's because when you apply a curve, sometimes that contrast adjustment also adjusts the colour. But if you just make the blend mode luminosity, that ensures that the change is just made to the brightness. I'll just go back to normal again so you can see there is a slight difference. And in some instances it makes much more difference. One of the greatest features about using an adjustment layer is that you can re-edit the adjustments that you've made, and you just need to click on the icon and you get the adjustments back up again. And now I can adjust the image and see the impact of the changes I've made. Perhaps I decide that I want to change the curves. I just click on that and adjust that a little bit further. I could do the same for the levels if I want. And if for some reason I decide that I don't want an adjustment layer there anymore, I just drag it down to the waste paper bin, and that's it deleted. And of course I can create more adjustment layers as I go along, and there are 16 in total. So there's plenty of scope for making non-destructive adjustments. If you want to adjust your edits at a later date, you need to save the file in a format that supports layers. So I recommend using PSD format. So you just go to Save As, and then make sure you've got PSD Photoshop files selected. So that's all you have to do, and you'll be able to revisit those adjustment layers at a later date. Just as with a normal layer, you can apply a layer mask to restrict where that layer is seen, and with an adjustment layer this means that the adjustment is restricted to just one part of the image, which is extremely useful, especially with landscape shots like this. The first thing I'm going to do with this image is add a curves adjustment layer, because I specifically want to darken the sky and just pull it down. And you see that the sky is being brought out quite nicely, but it's also darkening the foreground. I'm not going to worry about that too much at the moment. I'm just going to concentrate on getting the sky as I want it. That'll do. Now I'm going to restrict where the adjustment is applied. If I just click here, I can start creating a mask, and I can paint in where I want the adjustment excluded. But if I hit Control I actually paint in the adjustment instead. And so I need to use a white brush, and I just paint in where I want the effect to be applied. Just move that properties panel over. And you can see over here on the mask thumbnail where the white is appearing, the adjustment is being applied. It's easier to do it this way around sometimes because it feels more intuitive, but it's also easier if you've got a large area that you want to paint out as a mask. It's better to invert the mask and then just paint a small area. I might just apply a little bit of darkening along there. Now I've made that a bit too heavy-handed, and what I can do is I can switch here to have a black brush, but I'm going to reduce the opacity. Let's go to 31% and just paint over. Effectively, rather than painting black or white, I'm painting in grey. So you can just edge in the effect. So that's quite straightforward. So now I've done that, I think that the image needs a bit of a contrast boost around this foreground section here. So what I'm going to do is click on the background and add a new curves adjustment layer, and I'm going to concentrate on this part of the image. Just drag the shadows down, push the midtones up a little bit more. There, quite like that, maybe a bit more. And now I'm going to click on the layer mask and hit Control I, and I'm just going to paint in using a white brush where I want that effect, just to bring out this area in the middle, just to give this area a sort of sense of sharpness, or more sharpness and greater contrast. Just keep doing that. I might just push that opacity up a little bit more from 25. And that's bringing it out a bit more. I think I might push it right up actually. There we go. I think that's given the image quite a nice boost. And now I'm looking at the image, I think it could do with a bit of a contrast boost overall, so I'm just going to click back on the background and select curves again and give it all a bit of a contrast boost. There, that's bringing it alive now. And if I wanted, I can go back and I can just tweak the contrast boost that I've given that centre section if I want. And I could do the same for this top bit. I might decide to just darken those those brighter areas a bit more. Perhaps I'll go back and just give this a bit more of a tweak. There we go. So I'm actually working on three, well, this is the global contrast, this is the foreground section here, and this is the contrast and brightness of the sky. So that's a very straightforward way of applying re-editable selective adjustments to a single image.